All right, so we're live. So, hello everybody. Welcome back to Happy Sketch Time, episode number 5. My name is Jonathan Rector. You can check out my website and my work at jonathanrector.com.
My name's Will Robson, and you can check out my work at facebook.com/Robson Inc. Or Twitter/Robson Inc. I almost forgot my links there.
Did you? I know it's been
Been
a
a
while.
while. Yeah.
So this is kind of actually funny. Will and I haven't talked in a voice chat in quite a while, so should be
Yeah,
pretty
it's been
interesting.
a month or two, or something like that.
Yeah.
We've just
So
been busy.
yeah, man, and like we've tried to get the show going back and forth, but there's always like scheduling mishaps or one person can't make it and all that fun stuff. But we finally found some time, square away an hour, get some
And we
doing
are
stuff.
both officially done with our role on the Standard.
Yeah, that's true. Last time we were doing it, we were still doing that.
That's right. The dream is over, or the nightmare in certain cases.
No, she was a deadly beast.
Now, how many years were you working on that book?
I was checking the email when I sent John just to say we're done all the lovey-dovey stuff. I believe it was 2011.
Okay.
I believe so. It's about three years, three and a half years. Very, very long time.
Well, because I remember I discovered the book obviously through your YouTube videos in 2012. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because that's when I was just starting to draw a book myself, and I wanted to go digitally because a client of mine kept requesting changes when I'd already inked traditionally,
Oh,
and I was like, "There's no way I can do this. I need to go digital." And then I found your videos, and then I met you at New York Comic Con, and then we had loads of hugs and kisses, and now we're best friends, and it's just history now.
that's funny, eh? How that works.
Yeah, and
So,
now, sorry,
F all
go ahead.
that. That's moved on. So let's share with you what we're jumping into next. So I'm doing some concepts art stuff. I'll talk about that after. Will's actually doing real comic book. He's doing real comic book stuff, guys. He's the one doing the only comic book work right now. So
So,
you bring me up to date, and everybody else bring us up to speed. What are you working
oh
on? What's
boy.
new?
Well, I remember when we were talking, and like after the standard weeks, you and me were gonna, we're not gonna take on many projects. We're gonna just focus on stuff we need to get done, so that it doesn't keep piling up. Well, I've done the complete opposite of that. I'm working on 5 books at the moment right now. Look at how crazy this girl looks, by
God,
the way. Look at this crazy old lady.
I don't want any cookies she's making. That's for sure.
um, so what I'm doing now, this is a book called, well, it's a sort of one of those collaboration books for a company called Dead Canary Comics, which is up here, and you can Google them and stuff. And they are well known for they're UK based, and they make a book called Frogman, I believe, which is
Love
kind
it.
of like a Spider-Man as a frog sort of type stuff. And also another one which is, oh, what's the name of it? It's about like a medic. That's all I know. Anyway, they contacted me because they've been commissioned to create a comic book for an independent film that's based in the UK. And the script that I got, I liked a lot, and the pay was very good, so I decided to do it. So that's what I'm working on right now. And this has a due
Hmm.
date for, I believe, July 4th. So I've only got 4 pages of this to do. So I'm working on that. I'm also working on a book called Meta Rising. I just finished the mini comic for that, and now I'm working fully on the first issue of that. I'm also
Oh,
working
sweet.
on I'm also working on a book called TOD, which is abbreviated for Time of Death. So I'm doing a full issue of that, and I'll be working on that for over a year. And I'm also working on a Joker short comic, which I think I worked on in the last video. And I'm also doing a short story in the next Oxymoron Big Book for Comics Tribe. So I am busy bloody boy. I'm very busy.
God, it doesn't sound like you skipped a beat at all.
No, when the standard was done, all I had was Meta Rising and Time of Death and Joker, and now I've taken on these other things. So where she goes, boys.
So way she goes.
Where she goes.
That's awesome.
And you are in happy fun land, John Rector doing his own art stuff land, right?
Yeah. I just did. I don't know how many people caught the live stream on Wednesday that I just did. I was actually in the process of recording it so I can upload it to YouTube before you and I started chatting today.
Hmm.
So I'll have it up probably tomorrow because once this is done, it automatically goes up. But anyway, for those of you that didn't check that out, what I was saying in that one was, if I can give a Cliff Notes version, that once the standard was done, I was going to take a month off to just enjoy my own stuff and do some study time. And it was just supposed to be like I don't want to say a moment of reflection and all that crap, but in a way of a vacation, which is something uh, about a week in that I realized I couldn't do because it's, to me anyway, one of the things about doing comic book works is I don't want to say you skip vacations. You no longer take time off for yourself. Um, but in a lot of ways, or at least in my experiences, that is true because there's always something else that you can work on. But there is something to be said about taking some time off and just enjoying people's company and doing
Hmm.
things that you enjoy. If it's video games, if it's reading, maybe it is just hanging out with people, or in Will's case, being in a band, right?
Yeah, being in the band, I do schedule for the first 2 hours when I wake up. I do play Battlefield 4 for 2 hours. That's very important to me, and it sort of gets me in the mood to like when I played too much of it, then I'm like, okay, now I can work.
Sure.
Yeah.
And as long as you're getting those warnings, right? Like it's not like you're getting stuck in the, oh man, 2 hours went by and I'm like just starting to feel good, and then it's like, all right, well, maybe another hour goes by and you're
Oh
in a
well,
dangerous
yeah,
video game.
yeah, those that happens sometimes, but this for some reason this week I've really kicked work in the bum. I've got so much done, and I've decided that what I've been doing before was I would rough out a whole page, send that to a client, and then I pencil the whole page and ink it, so I'd only work on one page, and that would be the focus. And that's what I found me being slow, is because I wouldn't want to work on that page. It might not be a page I enjoy. So now I'm doing for every single client. I'm just doing rough for everybody, and then all the clients are happy at once. And then I'm doing pencils for everything, and then basically all my clients are getting constant updates instead of like, oh, I'm going
Okay.
to work on a page for this guy, because that means like one client might not get an update for 2 weeks or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes them seem like you forgot about them.
Yeah, and that's really been working for me for just keeping me wanting to continuously draw right now.
Well, that's good. Well, yeah, you got such a volume of things that you're working on. But
Yeah, well,
anyway, yeah. So what ended up happening? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say I have decided now that this Dead Canary thing will be the last side project I take on. I'm going to no longer take on side projects. I mean, I took this one on because this project actually pays more than I make on all my other comic work. So like yes, if that happens again, I'll do that. But I'm not going to take on anything lower than what I already make. That's for sure.
It's probably better that way.
Yeah.
Unless again, it's like one of those really sweet projects or something.
Yeah,
There's
that
always
is
sweet
true.
projects.
Yeah.
I just want to, before I keep going here, I just want to let everybody know that's in the chat right now. If you guys did want to, well, chat in loose terms here. If you guys did have any questions that you guys want us to answer, I'm not exactly sure how you do it. I think it's through the Google Hangouts page itself. I don't know if you can do it on YouTube, but if it'll show up for us. But just post that question, and if we can see it, it'll pop up for us. We'll ask it, and we'll try to answer it for you guys. But yeah, so anyway, so that whole week I took off kind of thing, just mess around. And during that whole month, I really didn't study as much as I had hoped that I had. I did a lot of reading and stuff like that. But I started to get into a funk, I guess, of not even wanting to draw, to be honest with you.
Right.
And it was this weird, really feeling. It was like I was talking to my brother about it, and he does graphic design and stuff. And it was funny. He didn't say this, but I just sort of saw it. And I was playing Magic at a tournament at the time. I was looking around and I was seeing all these older guys. Hey, here we go. The midlife stuff. So I'm seeing all these older cats, and none of them look miserable. Do you know what I'm saying? Like none of them. Yes, navy blue. I can see that. Nobody felt like they were just like, oh, I hate life and stuff. But and this is me just being, me looking at stuff that I don't know how many of these cats are doing what they set out to do a passion they have or a love they have as their full-time job. I don't know how many of them are. Maybe they're writers or something, right? I don't think many of them are. I think they just work generic jobs. Could be wrong, but
Hmm.
I started asking that question where it's not. There's nothing wrong with it, but is there anything wrong with just enjoying stuff around you? You know, like instead of spending all that time drawing and the hustle, you know, trying to work and trying to do all that stuff. And I got into a mindset for a little while there where I was okay with that, and not in a way where it was like, all right, well I'm fine with never drawing again, and you know I gave it a good shot. I still had full intentions of just doing my own stuff, but it really didn't last long, and all it really took was just thinking about how long I've spent to get where I'm at right now,
Hmm.
and to just I want to say give up seemed really wrong. And I just started asking myself those same questions that I get myself into, where it's like, well, why am I doing this stuff? Is it like that's the big question. Why am I doing it? And over the last 2 weeks, anyway, I just something's happened where it's that resurgence again of why I love comics.
Well, that's good.
And yeah, the realization came in, and I think it was honestly because I had stopped for such a long time. And it's a scary thing because once you get down in that hole, you got to rebuild your. I did anyway. I have to rebuild my way out, and
Right.
it's a scary thing. It's definitely a scary thing because like it if you're not working, you're giving your mind time to find excuses for things to do, and it starts putting doubt into your head and negative things as opposed to just producing.
Well, I guess I have a sort of similar thing to that because right now I would say it's been a year since I decided, right, I'm really going to learn how to draw. Like it's
Okay.
been, I specifically remember it was June of last year that I read Figure Drawing and Design and Invention for the first time. I really decided I'm tired of not being able to draw from my imagination. I want to be able to draw anything that I can think of. I need to learn how to draw. Um, and I was really super like I need to learn everything at once, and you know if I didn't know how to draw something specifically, I'd really learn how to draw it. And I still do that now, but it's definitely a much more, what's the word I'm looking for? Relaxed. Like I still do like an hour of study every night,
Hmm.
but it's not like I'm not going to go to bed unless I learn how to draw this type of hair and stuff like that. Because I think I've actually realized recently, like looking at some of my recent stuff, like, oh, I'm getting kind of happy with what I'm producing. It's not like as terrible as it used to be. I figured out a lot of the stuff that I needed to figure out, like how do I ink this and how do I make this texture and how do I make this look good. I feel like now I'm finally getting to the point where I'm getting comfortable with my work that I don't have to stress as much about studying. Because now studying to me is more pleasurable. Like for instance, I got like the latest Greg Capullo Batman stuff, and I noticed the way he was drawing trees and bushes, and I was like, oh, cool, I like that. I'm going to study that and see if I can take anything from that, instead of being like, oh no, I don't know how to draw trees or anything, so I got to study it, otherwise it's going to be terrible.
Yep.
And the way I've chosen to study things recently is if I'm drawing a page for a client, and suddenly let's say I have to draw something I've never drawn before, that's what I'll study. Or let's say I'm drawing a page for a client, and here's an example. I drew a profile of a girl for all of these concept art that I had to do for this book, and I
Yep.
realized like, wow, the profiles of women I draw are terrible. So that's what I decided to study then, instead of being what I have been doing. Like I need to get every figure drawing book. I need to learn stuff because I've mostly figured out. Well, I don't want to say that. That's totally not true. But I've definitely come now to the point where I'm very comfortable with my artwork.
Right.
And I feel like the way I'm trying to bring it back to what you're saying is, I can't remember. uh, but I understand like needing that need to take time off now because I would, what I was trying to say was I would never make time to play Battlefield for 2 hours. I'd always be drawing. I wouldn't be in a band because I wasn't. I quit my band for 9 months and I just focused on drawing. I got a girlfriend now as well. Like I've got all this stuff that's
Hmm.
keeping me extremely busy, but I'm still getting. Well, I don't know what I'm trying to say anymore.
No,
Good
I
job,
think I know
Greg. That's
exactly
what
what
I
you're
want to
saying.
say. You
It's
well-deserved break for you. That's what I want to say.
okay. Great. Oh man, so good. We do got a question. We'll answer it, and I'll ask it to Will as well, and read it on there for everybody in a second. But I just wanted to wrap it up, just saying, like what Will's talking about. if you can see where it's funny because it's like verbal questions to yourself that you're trying to explain, but then you get at it all starts to funnel and starts to clog, and that's where the good stuff is, I find, because like you have all it's if you think of literally a funnel and all the information you're pouring into it and all the questions you've been asking yourself or trying to share, like, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about because of this and that. Eventually, it gets to a bottleneck, and if within that bottleneck is the meaning of what you were trying to say the entire time. And it's like, as long as you understand where you were going with that, then it's good. But like, and I agree. So after all this is said and done, I'm still working on a role-playing project. You guys will see that. I've asked Kyle if it's cool if I can post it, and he definitely wants me to share all the things that I'm drawing. So one video that I will be doing, again, I plan on doing that today, but I'll most likely do it tomorrow because I have to wrap up these thumbnails. It's for the role-playing book called Worlds in Peril. You guys saw me do some videos and stuff on that. But the next video I do, I'm just going to show you guys at least my process of going from the script that he's given me to doing one of the thumbnails. So I'm assuming it's probably going to be about a 30-minute video to an hour. I'm just going to record it and go that way. But that's my only project that I need to work on. The other project that I have is, right now what I'm working on is Godslayer, which is a comic book, but right now it doesn't look like it. It will be eventually.
It looks like a video game or something that you're doing concept art for.
It's exactly the workflow I'm comfortable in doing with this sort of thing, and you guys know kind of what I talk about when I'm doing like character design and all that. I hope, but if not, ask questions and stuff. But this is the problem. I have an article I just posted on my site too, talking about how I've come to doing this project, and it has to do with more concept art stuff, like Will just said, where it honestly feels way more video game-ish than it does how most people tackle a comic book. But that's okay, right? Everybody's got workflows and stuff. But the problem that I have is I have so many ideas that it was coming up with one of these to stick with. But what's the time frame for this? What's like, I don't know, how many pages is this, right? All those details are important questions, but I need to nail down certain elements before I can worry about that, right? So who knows when this will get done? I'm not really worrying about it and stressing about it. Kind of what I was trying to say in that whole month that I took off is, as much relaxation that I wanted to do, I was putting more and more pressure on myself without knowing it, because when I work with clients, they give me things to work on. They tell me what they would like and when they need it by. And then it's my job to do my best to get those things accomplished. But when it's done for you, it's everywhere, right? So anyway, I'm just going to ask the question because I'm starting to bottleneck it like you were.
Well, you know what? When you're talking about bottlenecking, my brother pointed out to me, like, I think I have the same problem that Ricky has in Trailer Park Boys. Like, I just can't explain, like, what's going on in my brain thinking thing.
We're not educated. That's what it is.
In my grade 10.
So, Navy Blue Manga asks, so let me select it here. I don't even know if I select it, you guys can see it or not. But, okay, so he asks, how do you balance your time? Also, I think Jonathan does concept art as well. What do you think about spreading yourself too thin in too many different fields, i.e. animation, concept art? And he was just saying, yeah, he went through that as well. He hasn't drawn a comic in a year, and it's really hard to get back into the groove. So there's two questions there that I think we can answer. So we'll just start with the first one. If you want to jump in first, Will. If not, I can try to jump in there. But there's kind of three questions here. So the first one is, how do you balance your time? And the second question is, what do you think about spreading yourself too thin in different fields? So if you want, how do you balance your time? And I'm assuming with balance, he's talking about art and then pleasure.
Okay.
Work.
Well, as I said, I wake up every day at about 11 o'clock. I have some breakfast. I talk with the family and stuff. And then maybe it gets to about 12. And then I'll play Battlefield 4 for 2 hours. And I have lunch. And then basically my work day starts at around 2:30 to 3 o'clock. And then from that time, I'll pretty much work until about midnight or 1, and then I'll end with a study session. But in between all that time, I'm not constantly working. I'll take like little breaks and eat supper and stuff like that. But the way I schedule everything is I have loads of whiteboards. Like I have a massive whiteboard that has my schedule for everything. So on the whiteboard here, I'll just draw a whiteboard. On my whiteboard, it has the 5 projects that I'm working on. and I've drawn the number of pages. Like, what's this type of numeral system called? Where you'd like do 4 ticks and then a slash?
I like to call it prison style, but I know it's
Prison.
not right.
Okay. That's how I have my pages, and every time I finish a page, it's really satisfying because I erase one of these little things, and obviously I have a number written next to it of how many pages are left for each project. So that's like the big whiteboard is like this is the to do for the rest of my life whiteboard. Like this is like all your projects at once, and then besides that I have a mini whiteboard which has my weekly goals. Because I used to do daily goals, but now I like to do weekly goals where I'll have the 5 projects and it will say get pencils for pages 1 through 3 for this project, and then inks for this, and la da 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 da. So I like to reward myself where if I, like for instance this week, I got all of my board done before Saturday. So that means like, oh, well, I can take some time off to do something else, or I can start working on something else. I like to make myself have like little reward systems to keep me going. That really keeps me motivated. And if obviously if I miss those, then next week it gets like sent over to next week. I don't know. I have a really weird. John knows. Like I love scheduling and stuff, and that's like a little like I don't know thing I like to do. So.
Yeah, I've asked Will from time to time to, because he does like to post pictures, or I haven't seen any in a while, but there was a time there where you were posting maybe a new picture of your whiteboard every few weeks, because it just seemed like you were coming up with new systems all the time, which is, I'm really into that stuff. Whether or not I follow them, I find it very interesting, because you never know when you might pick up on something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, okay. So for me, one thing, well, for me, I have a full-time job as well that in video games. It's not necessarily what I'm doing right now, which would look like, I guess, console games, like a I don't want to say a serious game, but like one of these AAA games, I suppose, where it's like Battlefield or something, where this kind of style here is more done in that route.
And by the way, folks, we are not sponsored by Battlefield 4.
Yeah.
In any way.
That's exactly where this whole thing's going. But yeah, so the style that I'm doing right now is not how I work at my day job. It is much more streamlined and different. However, when I get home, that's where it gets tricky, because I'm sure most of you out there, if you don't have a full-time job, you probably got a part-time job. Maybe you're one of the unfortunate people that has to have more than one part-time job, and that's really where it gets the time balancing gets real screwy, because you don't know what you're working all the time, and you can't really get into a schedule, because you could be working a day shift today and a night shift and a day shift tomorrow. It's very difficult. There's got to be a way you can do it. Unfortunately, when we're doing art, I find that you have to make the time no matter what. There's no real sympathy that comes with it. If you're working for a client, especially, they want your well-being and all that fun stuff, but they don't really care that you have to work.
Nope.
So it's
trust me, I'll just intervene there with. Last summer I had an internship as an editor for a television company, and I had to get a whole issue of a comic done. So in a 3-month internship and drawing a comic, I would go to work and I'd come home and I'd draw all night, and then all my weekends was dedicated to drawing this comic. And yeah, the clients do not care if you've got something else going on. The deadline was still the deadline, so I think that's the biggest motivation. As you said, like, you couldn't find motivation recently for your own stuff because the client wasn't telling you what to do, but I think the deadline of this is due then is the real big motivation, because, like, for instance, with this project I'm working on now, they said, oh yeah, we just need it sometime in the middle of the summer. And I told them specifically, no, could you actually give me a specific date deadline? Because it helps me schedule everything, and it's just that date that sticks in your head that, like, it gets closer and closer, and for me that motivates me all of what I need to be working on and how fast I should be producing it. So you need to give yourself
I think yeah, that's exactly it. It's the only way that you can. You'll probably go over it, even if it's still like up in the air. You don't want to, but at least, like what Will's saying, I agree with 100%. Where there is a date, and it just helps you compartmentalize how much time you actually have, and then getting things done. If you don't have that and it's so up in the air like how I have mine right now, it's very easy to just go, well, I'm just going to do concept art today because I need to design some characters and some locations, right?
Yeah.
And that's great, but when does that end? You know, there's got to be something besides just drawing all the time, right? Ideally, you want to be making stuff. Anyway, the last thing I just wanted to say about balancing your time. Unfortunately, I think unless you're when I say professional here, what I mean is you are being paid to do the work and that is your job. Until you get to that point, there's stuff that's going to you have to sacrifice. And the first that I find most people usually get rid of is social stuff because they'd rather keep their hobbies around, such as movies and video games and TV shows and stuff, right? Things that you can just turn on and it's entertaining. Not to say that you'll give up friends and stuff. Again, you seem like you're an older guy, so if you're older, it's probably easier for you to give up your social stuff. Most of those friends have probably moved on, but I just wanted to go to the next part of that question. What do you think about spreading yourself too thin in too many different fields, animation, concept art, etc.? I'm just going to jump on that one real quick. I do myself concept art and comic book work. And at my day job where I do concept art, lately anyway, I have been having to do animation as well as UI, get audio files. It's very interesting because I never knew how much the guys at the office, they like to say like we all wear different caps, right? We are a small development studio, so you can't just hire a guy for audio because how much audio do you really need, right? Like it's not to have an in-house audio guy. It's pretty tough unless you're one of these big companies kind of thing. So you kind of have to fill in a lot of different roles. The only bummer, like to me, it's kind of cool because it keeps things fresh and exciting all the time. The only bum out is if it was up to me, just like many of you guys out there, I'm more than assuming, you'd rather just be sitting down and drawing. I want to be hired to do what I'm doing right now, concept art and comic books. That's what I would like to do. So I don't think it's a good thing to spread yourself too thin when it's your own time. At work, you don't have a choice. But when you come home, find something that you love to do. Concept art, comic books, animation, and just do that. Because there are people out there that are doing just that, and unless you're just looking for a job in a field that does these sort of things, then yeah, do whatever you want. But if you want to be sought after as an amazing concept artist or sought after as an amazing animator, you kind of have to be amazing at it. And in order to do that, your whole life is going to be into it.
Yeah, and in terms of spreading yourself too thin, like for you, from your job, you have become an amazing colorist, and without even knowing it. Well, I mean, I'm sure you knew it, but you've at your job you have to do a lot of coloring, and that's improved just your artwork in general tremendously.
Well, thanks.
So
Man.
even though like in terms of spreading yourself too thin or whatever, you having a day job, like that day job has helped make you a better artist still.
Yes, I'll definitely agree with that. But this is where it starts to get into the okay, what? I don't think I just want to be an amazing artist, right? Like I want to be an amazing comic book artist.
Right.
So learning how to paint, and to be fair, Greg Capullo, one of our favorite guys that you and I both love. I'm not sure if you have seen. I'm more than sure you have, but he does digital paintings as well.
He did digital concept art for World of Warcraft and stuff. You ever seen all that stuff?
Yeah, and it is great.
It's awesome.
Right? So that's kind of where I was trying to go with. As long as you're drawing, that's good because you will get better, like Will said in a very nice way. But if you can, on your own time, focus on what it is that you'd like to do. Because no matter what, you should be able to, like, even if you're going out for a walk, you can build a visual library in your head of nature and shadow and light and form so that when you come back to do what you want to do, you can bring that with you. But anyway, I don't really have, I guess, too much more to say on that. I don't know if you do, Will.
Nope.
No? Okay. So hopefully we helped you out there, Navy Blue Manga. I know you just had one other follow-up question. I'm just going to ask that one now. You can tackle this one first if you like, Will. This is one where he said, yeah, he went through that and he hasn't really drawn a comic in a year, and it's really hard to get back into the groove. So I think our advice is probably going to be the same to how to get his groove back.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best things to get your groove back is to just study. Like, look at your favorite artists, decide what you like from each of your favorite artists in terms of, oh, I really like the way this guy draws eyes, or I like the way this guy draws hair, and then just if you just try and improve on like the littlest things, like you don't know how to draw like bushes or something, and then you learn how to draw bushes. To me, that's like the most instant motivator. It's like now I am the ability to draw bushes. It's like that's the simplest little things that keep me like motivated. Because the better you are, the better you get at art, the more you'll want to start producing work. So
Yep.
I think that's really the only thing I've got to say about that.
There's this one really cool thing. I heard this one guy say, but I know it's been said by other people, by Miyazaki. I don't know if you guys know who he is. Uh, Princess Mononoke, the Moving Castle, forget whatever that is called. He's a very popular animator over in Japan. Uh, anyway, he said he always feels that his projects towards the end, they're never, once they're starting to wrap up and get towards the end, they never were as cool in his head as they ended up. Or sorry, they never ended up as cool when they were finished as they were always in his head. And
Yeah,
instead of beating himself up and going, "Oh God, how do I?" That is like the easiest or the best medicine he's found for himself anyway is to just jump onto the next project. Don't loom on your failures and stuff because you will get better. And as you get older too, right? Like your tastes are definitely going to change, and what you find cool 10 years ago, you might not like it anymore. It might be different, right? So don't fret on where you're going. Just know that you want to get better and do the best you can to get better. But to answer your question specifically, honestly, just like Will said, grab a comic book, man. Grab your favorite artists and just copy their stuff for a little bit. Get into a ritual of a habit of drawing at a certain time every day for 10 minutes. I know it sounds stupid, 10 minutes isn't anything, but you'll notice that you'll start to look forward to it, and your body will actually start getting interested in going, oh, it's almost 9 o'clock, it's almost 10 o'clock. I get to instead of watching TV, I get to just draw for 10 minutes. And eventually it should snowball. And if you actually are interested in it, you should start finding ways to incorporate it more into your life, to
yeah.
schedule in time to actually make stuff you want to make.
You'll also just figure out if it's actually what you want to do or not because
Yep.
I think I'm addicted to it now. To be honest, like it's the one thing I know that I constantly do every single day. Like is draw. And
Hmm.
even like, and I just find it so like yes, I'm working right now, doing work drawing, but like always at night, from just before I go to bed, I always pick up a comic, and I just take a browse, and I'll see something, and I'll like copy it. Like recently, I've been buying all of like the old Spawn comics because I actually never saw that artwork, so I've
Oh,
been
sweet.
buying like issues 50 through 100 because I have the other ones. And oh man, that old school Capullo art is just blowing my mind right now. So
It's
that's the
raw.
type.
It's real
That's
raw.
the yeah. That's the best stuff for me. Is I just love picking up a book and being like, oh, I like that texture that he drew for Wood in this issue of Spawn, and then do that. I don't know. That's the good stuff. That makes me realize why I love drawing is just constant study, really.
Yep. And just to dovetail on that, when I was talking earlier in the show about finding my passion, what it was that I love about comics again, it was literally during my walk to work. I asked myself the question. I was just trying to think of it, and what came to my mind is outside of like animation, I can't find a single art form that I enjoy as much as comics for pure dynamic energy.
Mm.
And that's what I'm loving about comics. There's definitely stories that I've read where it's just like reading a really good movie or reading a really good book or seeing a really good movie where something gets pulled on your heartstrings. You're like, wow, words are powerful. And that's what's really cool about comic books because you get both. You can have those powerful words, you can have those things happen, but you're also blessed with the ability to draw stuff that is so cool that people will remember it you
Yeah.
know and you actually get like I don't, not in a sexual way, but I get turned on when I see like really cool foreshortened anatomy just twisting, like, and just seeing stuff like maybe a cool
Oh,
fight scene or
yeah.
something.
Oh, I
Like
hear you.
even
I mean,
what
yeah,
like
if
what
I,
Will's drawn right now, that face. That's what I'm talking about. It's stuff like that where outside of like in a cartoon, you probably wouldn't see stuff like that, or in animation. Movies, you won't see that because at least his style anyway. There's an energy there, which is great because it's not uber realistic. It's not. He's not drawing a real person. He's drawing
no.
something that resembles a real person, but there's life. There's like extra life in there.
Oh, thanks, buddy. Uh, oh, what was I going to say? I totally understand what you mean about like the quote unquote turn on thing. Like every time I go on Twitter and I see like Capullo's pencils, something just hits me. I'm just like, oh my god! Like I don't get any other feeling besides looking at something like that.
Yep.
But in sense of why I love doing comic work is, I mean, I went to film school for 5 years because I figured, oh, I love movies, so I want to be a film director. But I realized I just love stories. I just love the art of storytelling.
Hmm.
And there's no way, like, I made so many independent films at university and stuff, and they all came out really crap because I'm obviously an amateur and I have no, uh, I really need to study a lot to be able to be a good filmmaker. But making comics, like, I have an unlimited budget. I can do whatever I like with the characters.
Yeah.
I am all the actors. I'm like the set designer. It can look exactly the way I pictured it, and it's just the most easiest way to be a storyteller.
Yep.
So
It's all true. And those are things that are again important, right? Like, do those things sound like they interest you? I'm assuming yeah. If you're an artist, I know actually there's a few concept art buddies that I have that I still talk to from time to time that I used to go to college with, and I've had the discussion with them where it's like, why did you guys stay in concept art instead of going into comic books? Like, because I find like I don't want to say they're similar because they're not. It's really two drastically different things. This is more like comic books. I find tickle the funny bone more of illustrators as opposed to concept artists where it's like no, we just like to
yeah,
create things that don't exist that look like they could exist. They're more. I
yeah.
find them being more like inventors.
Hmm.
And that's where it started to get into the okay, I see. So it's not that you don't like cool looking stuff. I mean, there's a lot of really sick concept artists, but you guys, there's
Oh, I love looking at concept art. Like,
oh, to
doesn't
me
mean
it's
I want to do it, but I love looking at it.
that's right. And yeah, so I don't know. It was just an interesting thing that I had to ask, just to see what it was that made me drop out of animation because there was only so many avenues that I could go down, which inevitably would have been concept art. Is the only thing that I really wanted to do,
Yeah.
and it was I couldn't do it. It was just comics are just too cool. There's just too much going on in comics that you know I want to be a part of it, and that's the exciting stuff. And I actually wrote down so whenever and you shouldn't forget it, right? Because it is something that you think that you'd want to do, but it's always refreshing for me anyway to have like little words around so I can read that sentence and I go like, right, that like obviously that's why I'm doing what I'm doing because it's that energy. There's nothing I have yet to come across anything even riding roller coasters is cool and stuff. You get a feeling from it. I don't get that feeling when I do comics, but it's when I open a comic book for the first time and it's cool what's happening inside it. You get lost in there, right? And
Yeah.
it's being able to just escape really into really cool things, and then being fortunate enough to be in a spot where I can make my own now. That's huge.
Oh yeah.
One of the
Like,
biggest rewards you can have for putting in all the time.
I don't know how with you, but seeing my first ever like printed comic book, even though obviously, I mean, I wasn't the writer or anything, I was just the artist. Like that was one of the best feelings in the world. Like I created a comic book. This is nuts. I know
Yep.
I've created over like 12 or 15 comic books, but still, every time one of them gets done, it's just like, oh look, I'm holding a comic book that I drew. It's like I can't explain it.
Yep.
You definitely turn into like a
All right.
kid. You're like, look, I
Oh,
made a
for
comic
sure.
book.
Hey, you
It
get to
looks
play
very
with
legit
toys,
as well.
man. I just have a quick question from Nazra. Jonathan, did you go to the same school as Jason Fabok? I believe I'm saying his last name right. And for those of you that don't know him, I believe I live in Windsor, and there's 3 other people that live in the same area that all work for DC, and Jason's one of them. I haven't met him. I'm not sure. He probably went to the same animation course that I went to in college, but no, I haven't met him personally. I hear he's a really cool guy. He
Is
does
he
really
the
cool art.
is he the David Finch? Like
I believe he's one of them. There's two of
okay,
them.
all right.
And what Will's talking about is David Finch. He's the big guy in the area, and he's had a few people come and go to kind of like I don't know what's the right word here, protege in a way. Just kind of like
Yeah,
take them under his wing and just kind of show them, really cool stuff about drawing comics and uh, yeah. So there's that, and I believe he was one of those cats as well. I could be wrong.
I think he was because I think I read a thing, an article where he like how he broke into the business and he talked about working with Finch and now he drew lots and he showed like his samples that he showed to DC Comics and stuff like that. So I
Yeah.
think it was him. It sounds familiar. I mean,
Does
he's
it?
got a
Okay,
pretty
so
Finchy like rendering style, doesn't he?
I believe so. I believe so. There's always him and the other guy I get mixed up. Jason and I don't know. There's another cat that I always forget. But Navy Blue's just lighting up the Q&A. Just to let everybody know, there is a Q&A that's open. Navy, if you wouldn't mind actually just posting where you are asking these questions. That way I can let people know where to go. Because I don't think Will or I know exactly. I think it's the actual Hangouts page to get your questions thrown in there. But once Navy gets back to us, I'll let you guys know. So if you guys had any questions, feel free to drop them in. Navy was just saying, I agree with everything you said. The only reason I honestly draw was to tell awesome story, and of course I love art, but that was the main reason. Good. That's. I think if you love one of the two things, art or story, mostly I would say story.
Yeah,
Story
I definitely
mostly.
too.
Yeah. Because you can draw in any style, but as long as the storytelling's great, right? That's what everybody always tells you. Navy Blue, I go to Sheridan for animation. Oh, Sheridan, sweet. So you know about the digital animation in St. Clair College in Windsor. There was always like I don't want to say a rivalry, but I remember people would always talk about Sheridan was like that's where the real animators went. So it's cool that you're local here. Ish, not really. Where were you, in London, I think it was? Navy's also saying he's 18. Oh, okay, so he's not an older guy like I thought. He's 18, but I kind of isolate
You
myself
sound
from
like an older
friends.
guy.
Yeah, he's an older cat. I still kind of isolate myself from friends. Didn't really have any to begin with, but yeah, I don't play video games, but I do Reddit too much. Okay, so
Hey man, if you're 18, you've got all the time in the world to learn how to draw.
yeah,
Like you were
just keep
saying,
drawing. You'll be fine.
like start today because in a year's time, like for me, I know it took me a year to get from really crap to decent. So just download, or I mean buy Michael Hampton's Figure Drawing Design and Invention and Andrew Loomis's what is it, Drawing the Head and Hands, and then whatever else takes your fancy. But get those two books and get to it.
I agree. If there was one thing that I could do, if we can do the go back in time for a second, it would have been as fucked up as it probably sounds. Is honestly just draw even more.
Yeah.
And which is weird because I know I've drawn a lot. Will, I know you've been drawing a lot. But if we knew that we could go back and draw even more, because like there's not really, I can't think off the top of my head because it's been so many years, right? But I can't think of what else I would have missed if I drew even more.
Probably like a lot of playing Tony Hawk back in like the late 90s or early 2000s.
All right, maybe I take it back then, because there was a lot of role-playing games I was playing, and
Yeah.
and they actually set the tone for style that I like. And
Yeah, I agree. Did you ever play the game Ragnarok? I think I'm like the only person in the world that played that game.
no, I know we've had this conversation, but yeah, you played the hell out of that.
And they just by the way, they just came out with like a new one on the PlayStation, and I just tried it out, and I just decided not to get it because otherwise I wouldn't get any work done.
Was it everything you remember? Just a little better?
It was all updated and like.
Oh man.
Yeah. Not gonna get into that.
Sweet. So Navy's saying that you can actually go to, it is the Google Hangouts. So if I believe if you guys just search for Happy Sketch Time, should take you to the Google Hangouts page, and then feel more free to ask a question there, and we'll try to get to it.
Hang on, I haven't even looked at your screen yet. I don't even know what you're doing. So this is Godslayer stuff, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to design the main character.
That looks dope.
Thanks, man. I'm trying not to go too detailed because it is comics, right? We're gonna have to draw this guy a bunch of times, but this is where just this is called silhouetting. I know I've talked to Will. You've seen it before.
Yeah, I love your feeling.
Thanks. There's really not much detail in there. Really, this bottom left one right here, the one I ended up with. This one's you can radically see it's much different than the other ones. So yeah, so just take that, blow it up, lower the opacity, and just quickly sketch over top of it, just to get some different styles of things that could potentially be there.
So why did you decide to do the silhouettes in Photoshop then?
Just for the brushes. That's really about it.
Oh, really? But
Yeah, there's this chalk brush I'm really getting into.
you can have a chalk brush in Manga Studio 5. They got chalk brushes.
Oh, I wouldn't even doubt it. I wouldn't even doubt. I just have the things already.
Go into pencil in Manga Studio 5, and then there's a pastel section, and there's like chalk and charcoal and all types of stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then yeah, probably definitely should have done that.
Just to let you know.
Well, no, I probably should. I probably should be in there and just totally leave Photoshop behind. I can't.
Nah, man. I mean,
That color.
Photoshop's still a great program. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, and my real life buddy, Big Sexy Andrew's in the chat. How's it going, Andrew? He's Will. I told you about him before. Him and I are the one. Like he's the guy I hang out with. That I used to work with at EB Games, but we hang out now and we talk about writing and stuff.
Oh, is he the one that you do writing comps with and stuff?
We tried to, but never seems like we actually write anything.
But
Yeah.
he's the one that you tried to do them with then. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice.
So, and he's
Oh, he
actually.
wrote my script, didn't he? Or was that
Yep.
somebody?
Yep. He's the same guy.
Oh, Phil, thank you for reading that, Andrew. I appreciate that.
Okay. Got another Questino from Nazar again. Dude, how do you guys study backgrounds, interior backgrounds? Because comics is not all about figure drawing. It's true.
That's very true. Well, I always first look around my room to see if I can get an immediate reference for like door frames and stuff. And I have this weird thing that I've noticed. Have you ever seen the show Dexter? Have you ever seen that show?
Dexter?
Not Dexter's Laboratory, but like Dexter, like the serial killer Dexter.
Yep.
Well, he like is constantly like thinking about like because he's always thinking about like death and murder and like always like trying to figure stuff out. Same as Batman. Batman's always Batman. He's always like in detective mode. I'm sort of like that now where I'm out and I'm noticing like I'll look at people's trousers and be like, oh well, there's a nice design for trousers, or I'll be looking at buildings specifically and door handles and stuff. I mean, you just got to look at everything around you. But for backgrounds in comics and interiors, I look at John Byrne because that guy just knows how to draw a nice background, and he always has all these nice little textures and details to draw them, and that's where I really get all my influence from, and also from Spawn as well. So.
Yep. Got about the exact same thing. Really, honestly, my interest in concept art has me doing what Will just talked about, of looking at things and trying to, another word for it is build your visual library. Build the things up in your head that you don't really know about, but that you can pull upon. One concept artist I've been talking about lately, I highly recommend you check out if you haven't. His name's Fang Zhu. I'll just spell it on my screen right now for you. Just YouTube him, watch his videos. They're very long actually, but you will eventually get through them. Amazing guy, the way he talks about certain things. He promotes reading novels and books. I'm a huge guy on that, to build your visual library. One of the videos he has, actually, he talks about one of the reasons why, and or he gives an example of two people, one person that not necessarily doesn't read books, but somebody that always was reading, looking at things, maybe traveling the world, just has been exposed to more things. And the example he shows is somebody that hasn't done that. One of the assignments might be draw a castle. And what that person might draw would be something similar to this here. It's very fairy tale, maybe Disney, King Arthur, that kind of stuff, and you put a moat and things like that, right? And they've always got like these pillars and the flags. There's nothing wrong with that. That is a castle. But in concept art, that doesn't work unless you're
Why
doing.
not? It's a nice castle.
Why? That's exactly why, right? Because like when you do concept art, this is the part that I get tickled in, because you can bring this stuff into comics, especially if you're doing your own stuff, or if you're doing stuff for the big guys. If you're drawing Spider-Man throwing down around a city and stuff, if you actually lived in New York, I can guarantee you your backgrounds of city backgrounds are going to look way better than somebody like me.
Yeah.
Lives nowhere near giant buildings. Okay, I can only look at pictures. I'm not surrounded by people and things that I get to add in all the time. There's things like when they fix buildings and they put those, I don't even know what the hell they're called, but they put those. It looks like something like a barrier here, like this kind of thing going on, and then guys will be in here with sandwiches to eat their lunch, but they're like painting and fixing stuff. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that's actually called. Outside of construction, right? But there's a name for it. But if you live there, I'm assuming you probably know that stuff. So you walk by that every day, you know how it's constructed. It's easier for you to just start throwing in those lines, right?
Oh, you know what? I always love a good water tank on top of a building.
See? It's little things like that, where some people, or maybe they'll put an air conditioning unit at the top.
Oh yeah, and it's something you've just got a cylinder amongst all these squares. It always looks good.
Right, and that's the point here. So the castle idea, really quickly, what he was talking about, and I can just draw it real quick because I still remember the image. It's like, well, just to be different right away, right? Instead of just drawing a castle of a castle, you start asking questions. And if you guys have been watching my videos, this is the stuff that I've been trying to do to myself. I've been doing it for a while, but trying to get more proactive in it. Doing this with writing, myself it works to generate ideas, and that's the point. Is just ask stuff. So first thing, okay, so I'm just scribbling here, right? Where is this? I didn't even ask that question when I did that first castle. I just drew a castle and put stuff around it. Is this okay? The easiest way, we'll just do it for now, is maybe it's in a really cool mountain. All right, so we got a mountain going. Maybe it's actually built in the mountain, right? So we have stuff here, and it is scribbles, right? It's concept art, but you can tighten it up later. So if you guys remember Minas Tirith or Minas Tirith in Lord of the Rings, it was the same sort of thing, but you have levels, right? So you have down here's where the peasants would live, and very boxy shaped, rough-looking stuff. But as you go higher, maybe now it starts to break away from the mountain, and you get a different sort of thing happening up here, because this is where the king is and the royalty and stuff. They want to separate themselves from everybody, so they actually build away from the castle. And now maybe there's bigger windows and there's brighter lights up here. Maybe there's no like glass down here. This is an old school thing that a lot of, I know in Europe, was like that when glass first came around, was only rich people had glass. Now everybody's got it.
Oh, that's a nice little factoid.
And that's what I'm trying to go with here. Is like, just ask your guys self this sort of questions. So when you're designing characters as well, that's why I like to do this sort of thing here. It's not just to draw different things, but I know this character, like I was still coming up with like the background. Where does this guy live? And I want to go with a sand sort of theme. So maybe a scarf to block things out. He's poor. He doesn't have, not necessarily, he just can't afford a shirt. There's some other story elements that go there. I can put scars on there to show that he was a slave at one point or something like that. There's maybe he's still got rings on him here. I'm not necessarily just putting rings here just for a style thing, but maybe there's still, he's an escaped slave, right? There's a story happening here. So how do you relate this to comic books? Like if you're doing Spider-Man, honestly, going into that sort of thing, I believe anyway, with your backgrounds is the right thing to do. Where it's maybe there's construction, maybe there's the hot dog stands and stuff, like things you don't necessarily would 100% think about when you think about New York City, unless you live there.
And you can also cover up a lot of like detailed perspective by sticking an object like a hot dog stand in the middle of it. But you can look. It might, like, I remember Tom Fun talks about this all the time. Like, you might see a background and he's drawn of a huge cityscape, but really, like, Spider-Man's taking up more than 80% of the image, and it's so spread out that it looks like there's way more going on there than there actually is.
Yep. Yeah, and that's exactly it. And those are the tricks, honestly, to get you hitting deadlines faster.
Yeah.
That's usually where that stuff sort of comes in. But Anyway, so to really quickly just backtrack here, Nazar, to answer your question, how do you guys study backgrounds interior? The other thing I didn't mention is just honestly study perspective. Get used to making grids. Get comfortable with 3-point perspective, 2-point perspective, 1 point. Just put boxes in there like very quickly in sketchbooks so you can visually see a 3D environment.
Yeah.
So if you get comfortable with that sort of thing, you can start doing shit like Will's doing, where his character's in perspective. He's got foreshortening going on.
Well, this is terrible. I'm really pissed off at what I'm drawing right now. Like, so he's got this huge freaking like lat going on, and the shoulder's not right. So don't listen to John. Don't follow this example.
But it looks good, even if he's not going to tell you. So anyway, so that question's done. We got a question here. Hannibal23 is asking. Basically, he wants to know if we can draw any character he asks. I'm going to say no myself. I'm kind of focused on this right now.
I think that's more
if you got time.
Yeah, that's more for John's other show.
Actually, yeah. Tell him yours, Will. We both got YouTube channels. You can check them out there. We got some characters on there.
Oh, is he asking for? He wants us to draw something now, or if he wants to see other characters that we have drawn? I'm confused.
He wants us to draw a character for him. So you could say Hulk or Spider-Man or something. I don't know.
Well, I'm doing client work right now, so I can't do that. But yeah, on my YouTube, I've drawn like Green Goblin and Scarlet Spider-Man and and other things. And John's got tons of those as well, like Power Rangers and Hulk. Your Hulk one's wicked. I like watching that one.
Thanks, man. Yeah, the Hulk one turned out good.
Wolverine one is sick as well.
Yeah, so check out, for me, if you're not familiar, just check out Scribbles with Jonathan. That'll come up to mine. And what's yours, Will?
Mine's just youtube.com/RobsonInc, I believe, INK.
There you go. So you can check them out. And
both our channels are pretty much just a lot of like work in process stuff, some tutorials. Like my channel is just a blatant rip-off of John's channel. It's the only reason I made mine. So
it doesn't matter. It's all content. It's all fun stuff.
Except mine has a nice jazz background soundtrack to everything.
And you got special effects going on.
What you mean special effects?
You got like these real slick overlays and stuff.
Oh yeah. I got
peeling and.
That's just from editing. That's true.
Okay, Nazar's asking. Both of you went on. Let me just read this first here. Okay. Both of you went on studying film and animation. Do you guys find yourself applying any of filmmaking knowledge you received from school?
Oh yeah, tons. Because I've decided when I was at film school, I wanted to be a cinematographer. So basically, all my study was how to establish a nice shot. Like a ton of stuff that you learn in comics is a lot to do with film, of like the rule of thirds and don't break the 180-degree rule and stuff. Like I highly recommend buying a book on cinematography, because essentially, like, comics is a strange medium. I mean, it's not like you're trying to make a film, but I mean, films are so what's the word I'm looking for? A part of our culture that as like the main way of visual storytelling. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Big time, especially in the West.
Yeah, so that's why you can see a lot of influence in it. And I mean, I know I specifically do it. Like you study a lot of like I forgot the name of Hitchcock's cinematographer, but his stuff is just awesome. And it's definitely, I've hugely applied it to my work. Hugely. I mean, I've applied it to my work a lot. Definitely. And I even told you to get some cinematography books as well.
Yep. I haven't taken the advice, to be honest. I think I went. There's a really cool article I found online. That was somebody went over. I think it was The Incredibles. I think I sent you that link too. And they were showing you like masterful ways of doing things, like the rule of thirds especially. I did pick up 2 books. One was an animation book. I forget the title of it. And the other one's Framed Ink, which I highly recommend people check out for composition. But yes, animation, Like all of what you just said, film and animation. Film for what Will just said about establishing shots, pacing, and stuff like that. Animation, definitely. I think for those that don't go into animation, even if you're doing realism, you're doing comic books, and this is a style thing, so take it with a grain of salt. But do some study on simple principles of animation, like the jumping bag of flour was, I think, the earliest one you did, where
Oh yeah.
you have a character that looks like this, right? And it's just a bag of flour. But what you learn from just this, making that walk or jump, is huge because you've got lots to play with here. You've got like these little tassels from the sack here that can be ears, they can be arms, anything. When you jump, there's this rule of squashing and stretching, right? So if everything's coming down, maybe his ears are coming up and these things are coming to the side. All this stuff can be translated and should be translated into comic book stuff because this is how you get your the make believe life
Mm.
into your static characters. So
I think that was a Disney thing.
oh, I wouldn't. It's a fundamentals thing.
Yeah, I have that somewhere on my computer as well.
Do you? Okay.
And I'm pretty sure it is Disney. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, they've been doing animation for a very long time. A lot of people look to them for everything, really.
I don't know what's going on, but like my Manga Studio 5 keeps zooming in and out unannounced. Like it just keeps doing it whenever it feels like. It's very strange. It's like someone else is controlling my mouse or something. Ooh, scary.
Spooky time. Okay, is there a time on here or no? Interesting.
When do you have to go and babysit?
Well, I probably got about a half hour left.
Okay.
So, unless you got to go earlier, I guess we can call it then.
No, I'm fine.
Okay. I think I'm about to wrap this up and move over to Manga Studio 5 here, just tighten them up. I just wanted to touch too, because some people might be interested in this, and if you are, cool. If not, we're going to get Will to jump in after this and actually throw something cool about comics that he's working on right now that I can give you some knowledge of, because I'm not doing anything comic book related right now. But when you're doing concept art, at least this for myself, if you can tell, the anatomy is really whacked out. If you guys have played Street Fighter, Dalsum and stuff, like this guy's arms are what in the hell?
Yeah.
I just wanted to address that real quick. Why? If you can look past bad anatomy, there's certain notes I'm putting in here that I want for the character, like the giant shoulders, and then the skinny arms and like longish forearms, just like a gnarly kind of look. You might probably have a bad guy that would have a look like that. His anatomy will be corrected. It won't be this insane. And then his legs and his waist is way too small. But the idea is the costume that I'm putting on there. It's the overall feel, because you can always go from this to a finished, polished, totally painted piece or rendered out with really cool rendering and stuff like that, and actually putting a face in there. So I just wanted to quickly just say that, because I know some people, they get weird when it comes to concept art. They don't like concept art because it's not how the characters look. They'd rather go in there and render this guy out and properly make sure, like, but you lose the fun stuff of just finding out accidents that you guys have heard about when it comes to just throwing in some design elements that can just randomly show up by really loose drawing here.
I just, on a side note, for my birthday, I got from my brother Marvel vs. Capcom 1 and Marvel Superheroes. You ever play the first Marvel Superheroes game on PlayStation?
Was that the Infinity one?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep, awesome game.
Oh,
Really awesome.
So many memes. Oh, it was just great.
The artwork too, man.
We beat it as well. We never beat it as kids, so we beat it, and Wolverine beat Thanos in the end, so that was great. Anyway, back to the art.
There was I picked up Marvel vs. Capcom 3, I think it was.
Yeah, it was alright.
I honestly don't really like it. I like the second one, but
I just like playing those games, the old ones, because it's the closest I feel you can get to actually playing comic book art.
Yep. And then you get the really cool Galactus kind of showing up. Like, I'm a Galactus guy, but it was just kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, I beat him with the Hulk. Anyway,
Hey, as it should be.
Yeah.
Okay, we got another question here, and we got quite a few people watching now. Just to throw it out to you guys, if you go to Google Hangouts or Google Plus, just look for Happy Sketch Time. We got the Q&A turned on. Feel more than free to ask a question, and we'll try to answer it. We got about 20 minutes left in the show, give or take. So if you guys did have a question, by all means, check it out there. So RMASKO4 is asking, in Photoshop, how do you switch between freehand lasso and polygonal lasso while lassoing? Oh man, there's so much lasso action. Okay, so Photoshop, how do you switch between freehand lasso and... Okay, so if you look, here, let me just go to the default, where we got here, default workspace. So on the left here, you're going to have whatever this box marquee is. Underneath it is where you'll have your freehand lasso. If you click and hold, it'll go between lasso tool, polygonal lasso tool, and magnetic lasso tool. I don't use the magnetic one. And you'll see the keyboard shortcut on the right of it. It's just L, at least in this version of Photoshop. So if I press L, nothing's happening. I believe if it's Shift L, it'll change. Okay. So right now, if it looks like a balloon, we can just make really cool rendering and shadows when we do our final artwork. You can do this in Manga Studio as well. But if you hold Shift L, now you can click and get really sharp points like that. That's how you do it. So Shift L.
Shift L.
Okay. What's going on here?
So does it? I just a side note. Does it feel weird that right now you're not drawing like a comic book?
Yeah, it does. It feels dirty. Because this is how I tell the world that that I'm an artist, right?
Right.
Is comic books. And concept art and stuff's cool, it's fun, but it's not, to me anyway, I find it's not looked at the same as a really cool rendered out superhero flying through a city or something, right? People can recognize that a little bit better because it's like finished art. But I enjoy it. It's fun, but I'm itching to get back into comics, and the role playing stuff that I'll be doing. That is the first thing I'm doing. I think is 10 pages, and it's actually a pretty cool script.
When do you start that?
I'm starting it already, so there's gonna be a video coming up. Like I'm doing the thumbnails right now, but it's really cool because it's kind of like a flashback that's happening. The main character is in like a black silhouette, and you hear somebody else talking, and it'll flip back and forth between the people actually playing the role-playing game and then into the comic book world that they're all imagining as they play. And then as the narration's kind of going, teaching, it's the tutorial on how to play the game.
Right. And,
right.
And this is going to be that's going to be included in like the game book or whatever.
Yep, we got actually a lot of money. It got heavily supported, which is great. So a lot of the stretch goals that they had, such as this, like a comic book tutorial in there, that got funded. So yeah, it's really cool.
That's so cool, man. Mm-hmm. So if I want to get happy, I'd have to like buy the whole game, or can I just buy like the game book?
I don't know how they're selling it. I know with this first pass, I'm pretty sure it's just for backers. I don't know where what's going to happen with the other ones. It might just be a digital download or something. But yeah, you can definitely just buy the book.
Alright, cool.
Actually, that's with these role-playing games. That's all you ever need is the book because they come with the character sheets in there. I mean, you might need dice, but that's it. There's nothing. There's no other like boards you to play on and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to try a role-playing game, but I know nobody in my life that would ever want to do that.
Oh, that's too bad, man. Because great stuff.
I am definitely the nerdiest person I know. So if I went to my band, and I was like, "You guys want to play a role-playing game?" I think I'd be like kicked out of the band. So
you're out. Have fun playing.
Yeah.
Okay. Navy Blue's asking, how do you guys practice drawing?
Well, every night from I only practice like drawing an hour now, let's say, every night, maybe 2 hours. But what I like to do is I'll first sit down and look at some comics. So I'll grab like a Tom McFarlane book or a John Byrne book or a Capullo book, all of my top favorite artists, John Romita Jr. and I'll find something that really sparks me, or I'm like, oh, I really like that, and then I'll sort of look at it and draw it, and then after a while, after I get bored of studying, then I'll just start doodling from my mind. Like last night, I was drawing loads of Ghost Rider for no apparent reason, and I was just studying different ways people draw Ghost Rider, and I mean that's what I do. Besides, obviously, looking in books and stuff, but I'm a bit past that now. Like I'll still go back and look at books to recap my memory, but there's no really new books out that I need to really look at to study stuff with. So.
Yep, and just to dovetail on that one too, that I've trying to get back into like the Will style of studying. I haven't done that style of studying in a very long time. Where a lot of what I was drawing, like when I would go home, would just be drawing from anatomy books, and every now and then copying my favorite artists. Then, like what Will just said, eventually there comes a time where it's like you understand the fundamentals. You'll always need to brush up and get better at them. As you get older and draw more, you can your brain is capable of processing the same information over again, so you can see it differently and learn more. But yeah, I haven't really studied too much in a while, but lately I've been trying to do the half-hour thing, because my time is kind of crunched with the day job and stuff like that. But trying to squeeze in a half hour right now. Anyway, I'm going through the Michael Hampton guide. Going back to raw anatomy study.
Nice.
And then, kind of sprinkle in every now and then, if I got some extra time, just grab some of my favorite artists and just kind of look at how they're doing things different. It's funny. The older you get and the more you draw, it's like you study differently than when you used to.
Oh yeah.
And it's pretty interesting.
Well, it's because once you start understanding certain, like, once you understand how to draw forearm, and then you look at someone like what's his name, Joe Mad, like you could see like all the anatomy there, his way of doing it, and then you see someone else, and you're like, oh, that's a cool way to draw that forearm muscle, or like, oh, Jim Lee, he really amplifies this certain muscle and stuff like that. So once you understand the basics, then that's where the fun stuff comes from, because then you get to decide yourself, like, well, maybe let's see how that looks over the way I want to draw it. Ooh, that looks cool. Okay, I'm definitely going to incorporate that forever now. That to me is like the super fun stuff.
Yep.
And like just drawing different body types, like drawing the Hulk compared to drawing Wolverine compared to drawing Spider-Man. There's a huge difference in all their bodies, and like you can even like you don't have to draw. Your anatomy will obviously come from just your interests of art and stuff. So I don't know. I'm getting back into a Ricky hole there.
No, you're hitting it. You're hitting it.
Yeah, I'm done. That's it.
All done.
Thank you.
So, oh man, have you played with? I forget who had them, but there's like these Copic. I think I'm more than sure you gave it to me. Copic brushes from Manga Studio 5.
Copic brushes.
Yeah, it's like a marker. Like those gray markers? No?
Are they like the fancy felt tip pens?
Kind of.
Yeah.
But I was doing some sketches of the main character, just trying to get his face, and I was like, oh yeah, I had these, and I just started messing around with them, and yeah, they were real cool.
Where'd you get them from?
I don't know. I want to say it was somewhere on DeviantArt. Maybe somebody had them for free, I want to say. Or Scott Halfelker, maybe he
So what the hell,
shared them
Scott?
with me.
You're holding out on me then?
I know, right?
Freaking Scott. I'd love to try them out, though. I'll definitely try them out. Always love new brushes from Manga Studio. And you know what else is funny? If you look back at all these old videos, it's me talking about how much Manga Studio 4 is better than Manga Studio 5, but I can't even imagine going back to Manga Studio 4 now. I'm so comfortable in this program now.
Yeah?
The only thing still, though, is I really miss two things, which is I don't really like some of the perspective rules. Like, I like the one where you can just draw in your perspective, and then suddenly you've got your perspective.
Yep.
But I do miss the grid they had, because the grid in this one really sucks. Like, it's really confusing, and like you can only do it for like half.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain. I really miss the old grid. And the other thing I miss is the option to do focus lines instantly.
Oh yeah,
Like there was a
the one that they have now in 5 sucks.
yeah, it's really bad. And those are the only two things.
But
Besides that, like the pencils are bloody amazing. And I've got all my inking tools that I used before, and I really like the other ones. And I've got used to like the store. You know, basically it was. I just didn't know. All the buttons were different, but now everything's very comfortable.
it's good.
Yes, sir.
Hey, did you try? I was listening, I think, to one of our old Happy Sketch Times, and I think, or maybe I don't know where I heard you say it, but did you ever end up going back into Photoshop now that
Oh
you
no,
understand the pressure system?
you suggested it to me. I really should try that. I can try it right now,
Yeah,
actually.
I'm interested. Okay, I'm interested in what you think. And the only reason I bring that up is I've been doing a lot of drawing in Photoshop, and then when I went into Manga Studio to play around with the Copic markers and stuff, I got into a workflow, I guess, kind of reminiscent that felt two things. One, like the Freddie E. Williams version that we first started with, and the
Yeah.
second one was how I like to ink in my sketchbook, which is usually with two tools, which is with I guess it's called a mill pen in Manga Studio 5, or a felt. No, it's definitely. I think it's a mill pen, where it's that really sharp. It's such a cool pen in real life. I forget what it's. What the hell is it called? I showed it to you guys before. Maybe I can remember it by the time we're done here. But that, and then kind of getting the. It's like a brush pen, the Maru brush pen or whatever the hell, and kind of instead of doing a thick outline for the contour, it was just kind of using that to dress up where your contour line was, as opposed to always doing all the inks with a pressure sensitive
Right.
brush. Anyway,
Okay, I'm in. What's it called? Photoshop. Yeah, Photoshop. Oh, hang on. I've still got. Let's get black, and then I believe I made an old ink brush that was basically from a Todd McFarlane tutorial video.
was that the
Uh,
one that's slanted?
yeah, it's slanted. Yeah. Um, oh yeah, I've got all these weird ones like Capcom. What the hell is this?
Capcom.
I don't know.
Oh, my man, that's for coloring.
Okay.
I think everybody's looked for that brush at some point.
Oh yeah, that is quite a good color brush. Where's just basic inks though? Do inks. This should be it. Because the reason we're doing this is because I now do what John does, where I use basically what would be either a actual professional ink brush or a nib. But I lean more towards a nib. Because before I would use just like a marker instead, and if you look at my old work, there's just like no line weight or anything going on. So let's see here.
And that's kind of going where I was talking. I'm kind of getting interested in going back in that way without having something that auto does line weights as opposed to just building it up with a marker.
Yeah. I never really like jumping in straight with like inks because I don't even know what the hell I'm doing. But I mean, yeah, it feels okay. I don't like this brush that I've made, but it's lagging right now though, so I'm guessing that's because the video's going. But I don't see anything wrong with it though. Why? So why do you want to know? Just because you still like love Photoshop or whatever?
No, I was just wondering if now that you've had practice inking, I guess, if Photoshop was as bad as we always thought it was.
It's really not. I mean, I can't really tell tremendously right now because it's lagging, but like it's doing everything I want it to do. It's only because now I understand like line weights better and pressure sensitivity and stuff. Like it seems fun. Let's give this dude a beard. I'm a bearded dude. Yeah, seems legit.
Okay. There's
But
oh,
it's
go
not
ahead.
Manga Studio 5.
No, it's not. There's an artist that I've showed you a few things from, Dave Raposa, if you remember who that is.
No, but if you'd remind me of what you showed me of his.
Some of his popular stuff, anyway, that's concept art related. Well, he has a comic that he keeps posting, Starvale. It's like an animated GIF one, and he's done those really cool painted Ninja Turtles.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I just, jeez, I see his style of doing his comics where it's very like sketchy, and I've been messing around with that for a little bit, and I'm like, man, it's actually pretty, it's pretty cool.
So, what do you mean by schedule? As in what you're doing right now?
Yeah.
Well, once you try some God, what's it with that?
Well, that's again, yeah, maybe. I'm just trying to find different workflows because that's the beautiful thing too, right, about guys about doing personal projects is they don't necessarily have to do anything like how your production style is or your house style, as some people like to call it. The trick that you get in there is how do you get people to pay you, ideally, unless you're making money on your own stuff. But if not, how do you get people to pay you for your style, as opposed to like, well, we want our stuff to look like Marvel, and maybe
Oh, I
that's
hate that.
and it's a very real concern that people have, and
It's a very real problem. My first book was like, yeah, we want you to draw in an anime style, and I was like, oh God, what? I don't feel like an artist. I just feel like a duplicate.
sure, yep,
That's the worst feeling. I hate that. Of yeah, we don't want you to draw the way you've designed yourself to draw. We want you to draw some like a different artist, and it's like, well, just get a different artist then.
yep. But that money's good.
Yeah, well, it depends if the money's good.
Well, exactly, and if it is,
For my
alright,
first
yes,
comic,
anime.
my first paying gig to pencil, color, ink, and letter a comic, I got paid $300 for it, American dollars, and never again
Big,
is all I have
big
to
bucks.
say. Never again.
Okay, we're about to wrap up. I just want to quickly, we got a few questions here. I just want to ram through them if we can before we go. Which one's first here? I think this one's first. From Lux Pulsure. I saw you do a trick. I'm not sure exactly what he's talking about, but I saw you do a trick wherein you drew a thick line, then ended up with just the outline of it. Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about. For drawing straps and such, I do that. Do you want to talk about that, Will, or do you want me to?
Sure thing, I could do that right now, actually. Give me a sec. Well, it depends on what program I'm using, but in a program like this, let's say I did, oh, let's do it on a different layer. Let's say I did this, this, and this. What you do is you do the magic select tool over here. I think it's called Magic Wand. And you select it, and now it's all selected. And then there's options down here where you can expand the selection or shrink the selection. It's up to you however you want to do it. But you can shrink the selection, and let's shrink it by 7. And then what you can do now is you can either fill it in white, or you can clear it if you don't want anything to be there. And basically that's how you do that. And I definitely use this as well for belts or certain designs on things, and I use it for loads of stuff. And if you can make this an action, so it does all of that instantly. But I just don't do that because I always change how much spacing I want in between. But that's how you do that.
Yep, and I'll just do a real quick one for Photoshop because I do it actually a little different than Will does it, which is kind of funny. So whenever I know, what Will does, I think is actually a smart way of doing it because you never really know when you want to do it until you do it. So when you get to the boots, like the bootstraps will say, at that point, okay, I'm going to do this or that. But what I like to do is I usually just make a new layer, and then that's what I'll do the lines on. So I'll
I do make a new layer to do that. I wouldn't just do that on a random thing.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Of course, yeah. If I'm drawing like something that I know I'm gonna do that effect with, like shoestrings or anything like that, it will always be on a separate layer. And worst comes to worst, you can always select that thing and put it on a different layer, like cut it out.
Yep, totally can. So yeah, real quick, I do the 2 layers like that. This works in Manga Studio as well, but in Photoshop, I believe it should just hold Control and click on the little like dotted area of the layer, and it'll select everything in that layer. I believe it's Control in Manga Studio. It might be Alt. And then once I have that selected, I just go up to Select, Modify, Contract, and then change it to whatever the width is. So like what Will said, usually we change with our line weights and stuff. We'll just default with 3 pixels, and then I just press Delete, and then I would do that with the other layer as well. Select, Modify, Contract, line width is 3, delete it. And now that you have it, you got to do some erasing down. Just find where it is. And then this is where exactly like what Will just said, you would go in there and add your line weights to that. So just put it on that side, like that, and it's pretty easy. So, Digital Boys, it's the way to go.
Switch goes, boys.
And looks like we got time for, if you guys want to jam in questions right now, just bomb them. We're almost done here. Nazra is asking, hey, Mr. Rector, 1 Lux. Okay, anyway, Lux Pulcher, the person who asked before, I always wondered, both Will and Jonathan, before inking digital, did you guys start with inking the traditional tools like a Winsor & Newton Series 7, brushes, quills? Okay, so did we start inking with real-life tools before we jumped into digital?
I used, which I really wish I'd spent time learning how to use a quill or whatever it's called, a nib, which I am using now. Like for everyone out there, like I know John does it as well. We're not just digital artists. I love sketching in my sketchpad. I love drawing traditionally. The only reason I really am a digital artist is to produce quick artwork for clients. But anyway, besides that, I used, what are they called, like the pens, like the 0.4s and 0.8s, like
the microns.
Yeah, like, which was really dumb because that's why I think I never understood what line weights were until this year, which is ridiculous now that I think about it, because it's just not how I was thinking when drawing. Like I always used those pens which had no like line weight diversity, and like that's what I used for ages. Now I use a Hunt 102 nib pen or nib, whatever it's called. But before, no, like just I mean, obviously everyone starts as a kid using Sharpies, and then I had those Micron pens, but now definitely nib work. What about you, buddy?
Yeah, same thing. Mine was exactly the same thing as Will. The only other thing I may have messed around with, like I still love like a regular Bic pen that you would write with. Just grew up eating that stuff up. But yeah, digital. Actually, you said something, Will, that I wanted to say earlier, and I kind of just trailed off. But the reason why I was bringing up that style of kind of like what I'm doing right now, maybe not this rough, but working like this is because of deadlines and stuff like that. Like I started remembering how we talk about John Romita Jr. and even Freddie Williams. I know a lot of people don't really like his stuff too much, but they have a production art style, and there's nothing wrong with that because they're getting work and they can hammer out deadlines and they make money. Like I don't know what these guys' work looks like if they spent all day doing something. It's probably pretty good. And like even their fast production work looks good to me.
Yep.
And it's not phoned in. So it's kind of going that way. But just to answer that question real quick, yeah, it was the exact same way. I learned line weights and stuff with a pencil, building up value like that, and that's how I started going into markers and things with that, because it's the same sort of workflow of building up volume as the same as with a pencil. We have to redraw over a line over and over again. But it was just Manga Studio. Yeah, I guess Photoshop a little bit too when we got into it, with the pressure sensitivity to start to realize, oh, you press heavy here and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you were actually the reason why I was like, oh, pressure sensor what? Line weights? I mean, like I didn't do any of that until January of this year. That to me is just nuts. Like I can't think of drawing without it now, and like I didn't even see it in the artwork that I looked at. Like I would look at a picture and not even notice like, oh, this line's bigger than this other line, and not even care. Like, oh, I just feel like an idiot. Like, as I always say to you, like, when you learn things in art, they're always the most blatantly obvious things that you should know already, but for some reason your brain just doesn't think about it like that way when it starts.
Yep. It's like it's getting information overload.
Exactly.
So, all right. Well, if nobody's got any other questions, I guess we'll wrap this up. Give it another minute just in case. Ba-da-ba-dum. Ba-da-ba-dum.
And anybody interested? I'd said this on the last thing, but even though I'm technically quote unquote penciling this page, it's more like I don't really have a pencil stage. I have in between roughs and pencil stage. Here, I'll show you an example of what it will eventually look like. Like, I don't use any line weights really in my pencils. It's sort of just like, I realize now, John, that my pencil stage is the DC drawing digital comic stage of where he's just putting in the lines for everything.
Okay.
I've kind of realized like that is my pencil stage. Is his method of putting those like already rendered line stuff. Anyway, let's just grab a random page here. Let's grab this page. Sorry, folks, it's taking ages to load. So yeah, this is what my work, like this is a recent page. Like if you look at this, all the inks, like they have different line weight variation depending on the lights. There's loads of rendering in there. There's all types of stuff going on. And then, let's open this one. And then I'll just show you guys the pencils beforehand as well. Oh my god, these files are taking ages. That's the other thing. Manga Studio 5 is so much slower than Manga Studio 4. So you see all these.
Oh, without a doubt.
If I turn this off though, and I turn on, where's the pencils? Yeah. So this is what my pencils look like here. So I draw this stuff in, and it looks super rough. And like this is what I send to my client. But once the inks are in, over all that stuff, you can even see how. Here, the inks over this are where I've changed stuff. So there's line weights added in. You know, and now I'm thinking about lighting. Ignore this because I rushed that part there. But that's pretty much like the process. I don't even know how I ended up talking about this stuff, and I don't think anybody really cares. But whatever.
No, it's good because it's good to see the other side of somebody actually doing comic books today.
Yeah, that's true. It's all art. It's all art, man. It's all art.
That's right.
Oh, that's how I got into it, because I was obviously drawing these pencils. So everything I'm drawing now, you can see like there's not too much of a line weight difference in this pencil unless I really push. But once I go into inking this, like let's say I just started inking this, I will really start changing like the line weights and real nice thin to thicks and stuff like that. And that's when, to me, it turns into like the final piece. So.
Right on.
Was there any other questions, or was that it?
I think that's it. So we can just wrap her up, I guess.
Okey doke.
All right, guys. So I don't know when the next episode will be up. Hopefully, it's starting to seem like the way that our workflow is going. At least finding time to do this. It's like once a month. If we can get more, I think we'll do it.
It just depends on when we're both free, really.
Yeah. Basically it. So anyway, thank you everybody for your questions. It was really awesome. It's good to be back doing this sort of stuff. So you can check out my website, my work at jonathanrector.com.
And you can check out my work at facebook.com/RobsonInc, or youtube.com/RobsonInc, or twitter.com/RobsonInc.
There you go. All right, guys. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
All right. See you guys. Bye.